If I could wrap up grief in a little summary, this is what I would say I have learned after losing my dad at 19 years old. In the midst of everything, you really see who is there for you and who kind of just shows up because they have a guilty conscience. After my dad's death, I really realized who was there for me, friend-wise, family-wise, whatever that may be, and who wasn't. There were some people texting me and some people showing up after a while, acting, trying to be my best friend after we had not spoken in forever. And then there were some people that I expected to show up and be there for me, or maybe step into a role of a mentor or just things of that nature that is just highly disappointing. It really made me realize where my circle lies and not to really stray from that. Another thing that was very disappointing is I had a lot of people tell me I used my dad's death as an excuse to get over it. It's been 6 months, get over your dad's death. It's not that big of a deal. Move on from it. Stop that. Whatever it may be. Another thing I learned is that everyone grieves completely different because we're not all the same either. I look at it in my family. There's 5 of us now. I grieved completely different from my mom and my 3 other siblings. And sometimes having to realize that is very difficult because everyone is experiencing their own grief and pain in their own ways, and sometimes it's hard to communicate that, and sometimes it's just really hard to understand why. People can be angry, people can be sad, people can just be projecting, or people can just sit there and be just like very avoidant, like it didn't even happen, and it's just different. It has given me an entirely new perspective on life as a whole. I have a completely new lens on life now. My mom likes to call that lens grief goggles. And through these grief goggles, I appreciate the very tiny things in life more. I appreciate the little gestures. I appreciate the little compliments. I really appreciate that quality time that I spend with my loved ones. Not that I didn't beforehand, but there's a new level of appreciation now for all of that. I've also learned that grief has its own timeline. You can't rush the process. You can't rush any of that, but it also hits you when you least expect it sometimes. It can be the many things, like a simple song that reminds you of the person, a simple smell, a simple action, a simple piece of food. Anything can remind you of that person and just ultimately have your brain sit back into like, oh my goodness, they're gone. And it's just like a really real, very just surreal feeling. Like an example being, my dad loves Whiskey Myers. He's a big country music guy. And don't get me wrong, I love country music now more than ever, but back then we'd always kind of go back and forth because I was still in my little rap music era. He'd always give me some crap because it's like, oh, you're listening to this rap? This is the real good stuff. This country stuff, this rock and roll, this is the good stuff. Now when I hear certain Whiskey Myers songs, certain country songs, certain rock and roll songs, or certain alternative songs back from the 80s and 90s, it hits home. I have an emotional connection to those songs because they remind me of my dad. Or even like for me personally, like baseball. I love baseball, grew up playing baseball, but that love came from my father. And once my father had passed away, it was really hard for me to kind of figure out how to move with baseball or go play baseball without it being such an emotional process for me. But if I could leave you with anything, I'd say this. Don't let anyone tell you how to grieve. You grieve differently from anybody else and how they would grieve. So don't let whatever they say affect you. Don't let their thoughts, opinions sway you into what you're going to do and how you do it. And if you are still experiencing grief and pain a year and a half, 2 years after the time, or even further on after that, like, don't think you are weak. Don't think that you're just a wuss. It's normal. Grief has its own measure of time. It comes in waves. Sometimes it's going to be great. Sometimes it's feel like you're just in survival mode. And I encourage you to really put your trust into the Lord and to pray about it and just know that Jesus has your back.